The record-breaking buoy 10 fishery is in full swing. Although there are over 2.5 million Chinook and coho salmon currently headed upstream, this 40 square mile area can be difficult to pattern. On today's episode, watch as we build the plan for success during the August 1st opener, right now on Day One Outdoors. The outdoors is not a hobby. It's not our passion. It is our way of life. We can make the perfect cast, slow our breathing to execute a perfect shot, spend hours researching locations and techniques. Regardless of effort, we fail. This series is not about incredible bites. It's not about trophy animals. Our goal here at Day One Outdoors is to educate our viewers utilizing new technology to offer a different perspective. Watch as we research new areas, plan out the day, and adjust to changing conditions. If it were not for other experienced outdoorsmen teaching me along the way, I wouldn't have this life. I owe it to them to pass this knowledge along. I owe it to you. Join us here on Day One Outdoors, and let's learn how to become more successful in the field and on the water from day one. Last year featured an incredible Chinook return to the Columbia River. However, coho were lacking in numbers. Not the case this season. 1.6 million Chinook and 900,000 coho are forecasted to return to the basin. But the numbers of fish are not the only difference. This season will have its challenges. The Youngs Bay closure, El Nino ocean currents, and a warmer Columbia River will change our patterns. We took a moment the evening before the August 1st opener to discuss what worked well last year and what we expect will produce for us this year. Guys, it's July 31st. We're just moving in here to Astoria. We all plan on being down here for the next month. It's going to be a really long season for us all, but it should be a good season. We're expecting 2.5 plus million salmon, 900,000 coho, 1.6 million Chinook. Last year was incredible. This year is expected to be even better, but it's a new year. We have some new regulation changes with the closure in Youngs Bay. That's going to affect where we fish this year. That many more coho, that could affect our techniques and what we're using. Last year, we're mostly targeting Chinook. So we have a lot of new things to consider going into this season. One of the questions that I often get asked, I'm sure you guys do too, is should you run bait or spinner? Now there's a lot of conversation, well, what's the water temp out of the Columbia? If it's pushing 70 degrees, it's going to be a great spinner bite. Last year, I just ran all bait on my port, all spinners on my starboard, and it really didn't seem to matter. There were some days where I got bit a little bit better on the port side with bait, sometimes a bit better on the spinner on the starboard side, but I never felt like there was a time that I had to change to all bait or all spinners, because regardless of the day, I was catching my fish. Yeah. And this year should be a similar year, especially with a lot more fish coming in, but what have you guys found that works better for you and your pattern that you guys run out there? Mike, what are you seeing? Is it mostly bait, spinner, or what works for you?
I'm going to be running lead tomorrow.
Okay.
I run lead pretty much in the river. I run divers out in the ocean. I think you get a better second opportunity on these fish that are actually chomping on that bait.
Great point.
You get a bite, and that diver just pops that bait up to the surface, where with lead, it's going to stay there. That fish is going to be able to eat, if he takes a little bit of that tail, there's still some meat there. My hoochies are going to be doing its action, I'm hoping. And, we're going to get that second, maybe even third opportunity to get that same fish to bite and get hooked.
Yep. I like the lead. I started the lead program about 4 years ago, and I really feel like I can control my depth, like constantly.
Yeah.
Versus the divers, depending on the direction I'm going into the tide or with the tide, it's like, they're either just buried you know, and lines sliding off the, you know, or your lines are all good. So I just feel like I can constantly control my depth with lead.
Well, I'm going to probably start out down by the checkerboard, fish that at the bottom of the Desmos sands on the outgo to low slack. Right in front of Chinook, we've done very well in the past. Right now the Columbia River's warm. I think these fish are transitioning lower in the river.
Okay.
We haven't had the big tide yet to go push them above the bridge and have them sit up there in the shipwreck or above the freighters on the Oregon side to really start effectively catching them there yet. So I'm going to start off low, work to the low slack, down by probably Oahu as far as I'll go, and then I'll start motoring back up on the incoming tide and working around buoy 14 to 22, maybe coming to the Washington side, but definitely halfway through the incoming tide, come up on the sands, fish the checkerboard all the way up, probably go up to, you know, Church, Red Roof maybe stay on the Oregon side, fish in front of Hammond on the flood, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I definitely want to see the low slack and what's out the bottom of the sands.
Well, guys, I know we got a long season ahead of us. It's going to be a long day tomorrow, trying to figure these fish out. We know that there are some around. We are part of a select few that are down here starting on August 1st. But considering what we saw last year with the good fishing, I think that it warrants starting early again this year with the expected return. So like Brandon mentioned, most of us don't, in years past, didn't start until August 15th. We're starting August 1st, and there's, you know, another handful of guides that are down here that are booked up August 1st all the way through middle of September, just like us. I have high hopes for the beginning of the season, but we're all going to find out tomorrow. So let's take our plans. Let's go out there tomorrow and see what happens. And we're going to recap it, and hopefully we got some fish in the box.
Well, should we talk about it over breakfast tomorrow?
Yep, we're going to come in heavy. We'll be done by 10 a.m. and have it brunch. I like the confidence, Mike. I like it.
I could always hope.
Yep. All right, well, let's wrap up here and go back, get our gear ready.
Absolutely.
Get some sleep. Long day tomorrow. All right, thank you guys. Appreciate it. All right, here we go. Yep, here we go. It's a perfect day here on the Oregon coast to kick off our season. The early morning high tide hopefully brought in a few biters for our Buoy 10 opener. The typical mass of boats are non-existent today, and we are on our own to develop a pattern.
All right, so we finished up our first pass here. We changed our routine. I was going to start off fishing down by the church hole. We came up here above the Astoria Bridge, the Megler Bridge, went up above the shipwreck and then to the middle ditch. Quite a few boats around, about 35, 40 boats around. We saw one net as we drove up. Saw another net behind us as we were trolling down. We had one bite. It wasn't a really good serious bite, but he did take the bait. We lost it, missed it. But we're going to go ahead and go back up the shipwreck where we have that takedown, try it again, work our way back down the bridge, and then we'll probably keep going out with the outgo tide, move around the Red Roof, down to the church hole, and then eventually get down to the bottom of the sands by low slack. So, guys, let's go and reel them up and let's try it again. Here we go.
We're starting right now here in this 25 to 30 feet of water. It's our first pass of the season, and this is a great little choke point right here. There's shallow water on either side, and we've been hearing there's a few fish caught up in this ditch, so we're gonna give it a shot here right now. There's some bait up here. Haven't seen any nets fly, but we're gonna start by getting the back rods out first. That way they can scope out away from the boat, then the middle rods, then the bow rods. That way we don't get any gear tangled up. Now we're going to stake our depths too. We're going to have the back rods sitting pretty close to the bottom, middle rods about 5-10 feet off the bottom, and then the bow rods will be up about 10-15 feet off the bottom. And really pay attention to our electronics, see where the bait's at, see where the salmon are at, and see if we can't put a pattern together and get a fish or two on this first day of the season. The day has begun, and so has the Buoy 10 season. Already, we have adjusted our original plans and are searching for the first early push of fish up the Columbia River. Now it's on us to build a pattern and see if we can have success on day one of this fishery. Fishfield is your one-stop shop online for the gear you need here in the Pacific Northwest and beyond. From salmon and steelhead saltwater, trout and kokanee, even crabbing. Visit fishfield.com today to place an order with no sales tax and have the gear you need shipped fast. Fishfield.com, we have what the Northwest outdoorsman needs.
Every once in a while, a new lure comes along that catches every angler's attention. It could be because of all the irresistible colors and finishes, or the patented skip beat action. Or maybe it's the wide variety of sizes designed for salmon, trout, walleye, steelhead, mackinaw, and more. But just for the record, we know one thing for certain. We didn't design the maglip to catch fishermen. Yakima Bait Company.
The Buoy 10 fishery can be very intimidating for a lot of anglers. It's a lot of water with hazards to navigation and a lot of anglers. So what we're going to do right now is break down where to fish at different parts of the tides, where some dangers are, and where there could be some closures this season too. So let's go ahead and take a moment, look at the map, and break it down for Buoy 10. Let's start breaking down the Buoy 10 fishery by talking about areas where you need to take caution and be aware of some navigational hazards. Starting off right now with Desdemona Sands, which is right here in the middle of our picture. Desdemona Sands is exposed during low tides, especially on negative and minus tides that are located in these areas here. Try and avoid those areas at all costs. There are better ways to navigate through the Buoy 10 fishery than crossing over Desdemona Sands. Yes, there are some places where you can cross during high tide, but it is fairly dangerous to cross there. So if you're not familiar with the area, avoid Desdemona Sands at all costs. There are a couple other areas to keep in consideration. We often talk about the shipwreck fishery, which is located right here. There's a big island that is sunken, again exposed during low tide, located right there. Now another navigation, not necessarily navigational hazard, but something we also need to be aware of here during this season is a potential closure, and the decision will have been made by this point, by the time this episode airs, along the Green Can line on the Oregon side of the channel, right down here in Young's Bay. This area down here at the bottom of our screen is called Young's Bay. Now there is potential for a closure, and make sure you check your regulations, from the Green Can line below the Astoria 101 bridge down to essentially what's called the sawdust pile. This area in here is potentially closed to all angling to allow fish to enter into Young's Bay. So what we need to do is make sure that we stay to the north, to the Washington side of this Green Can line here. So this area in here, you are allowed to fish. Do not fish south of that Green Can line until you hit the edge of it. Down here, an imaginary line right there that goes to about the sawdust pile. So let's go ahead and start breaking this down a bit more. On bigger tides, the fish will move above the bridge on up to the shipwreck area and Tongue Point. Again, the shipwreck is located right here, and there are two channels that go around that sunken island that's located right here. And these fish will separate onto either side of the island itself. Now on the Oregon side during high tide, a great indicator, and one thing that a lot of us pay attention to, are these anchored up ships that are located, you can barely see here on Google Earth. What you can do is if their stern is pointed upstream, you know the tide is still pushing in. As soon as these ships start to swing, you'll see their stern start to swing around while they're on anchor. Now is the time to start fishing this area right in here. That is a great time to fish right along Desdemona Sands in this stretch all the way down below the bridge, again staying north of that Green Can line that's located right here. As the tide begins to shift, turn your boat around and start facing downstream and troll either on the north side of Desdemona Sands here on the Washington shoreline or on the south side of Desdemona Sands over on the Oregon side. Keep in about 15 to 40 feet of water along the stands, along that break, and that's where you're going to find most of your fish as the tide begins to swing. As you start to get towards the middle of the outgoing tide, you'll find a lot of anglers right here fishing that Red Roof and Church Hole area. And over here on the Oregon side, they'll shift down from the Green Can line, down over here to Hammond, and on down towards Buoy 22, located all the way down here. On some of the bigger outgoing tides, you'll see guys start pushing all the way out towards Buoy 10 itself. Now, the Buoy 10 fishery has really changed in the last few years. Not too many people are fishing out here near Buoy 10 anymore. The water's big, it's deep, and so people are avoiding that area and fishing in sections of the river that are shallower because that condenses the fish. The Buoy 10 fishery this year is second to none. These are the good old days. This fishery will extend all the way through middle of September with almost 1 million coho expected to return. If you've never come down here to experience it, make sure you take the opportunity to do so. Right now, let's head on back to the action and see how we wrap up.
Salmon swim up to 3,000 miles to return to their exact place of birth to reproduce. Well, most of the time.
The lines are in, but our expectations are realistic. It's August 1st, several weeks prior to the peak of the run. But we are determined to start season off with success and build confidence in our techniques for the duration of the fishery.
Out here in Buoy 10, we use a lot of bait and spinners. With using bait especially, we want to use a little bit longer rod that's softer. So we're using a 10.5 foot Lamaglass XCC. This is their Keen Eye Quick Rod. I've accompanied it with a monofilament line to a line counter reel. Okay, line counters work really well down here because we got a lot of water we're fishing. Could be 30 feet of water, could be 50 feet of water, could be 10 feet of water. So we need to adjust our depths with our lead or divers depending on where we're at. Now here for the gear, I like to use, because we're using lead today, we're going to be using anything from a 12, 16, 20, and 24 ounces of lead. I put my lead on a slider. So I put a slider on the main line, put a couple beads, and I tied a double dual lock. This is so if I want to, I can take the lead off and I can put on a diver. To a leader, to a Yakima bait fish flash. A lot of various colors. This is a new one from them, it's kind of a chartreuse and UV. And then on this, I've tied on an anchovy, double hook rig, mooching, size 3/0, Gamakatsus. And that's a great basic bait rig right there.
We're just starting our first pass here and I still haven't seen a net fly, and I'm thinking what happened is we're a little bit late to the party. We heard that there was a pretty good bite a little bit earlier, right when we were getting all set up, getting our gear put together, but I think we're a little bit late, and I think these fish are being sucked out down below the bridge. I think down around the Red Roof, Church Hole, that might be a little bit better place to be right now, and just follow them all the way down to the bottom of the tide, down to the bottom of Desdemona Sand. So we'll see what happens here on this pass. If I don't see a net fly, I might just keep heading on downriver.
Yeah, no doubt. What's that?
Still got him?
Yeah. Where you at? Under?
I don't know.
There you go. It's between.
Oh, there it is. How's that bait, Jason? It's not here. Oh yeah, it is now. You're going steer hard to the other way. Yep. Okay. Yep. This head went wet. Oh! First pass, first bite. Had him right at the net. Barbless hook just came out. Tried to sweep him once with the net. He had his head away. You don't want to try and net him when the head's away. I still gave it a shot. A little bit excited here on the first fish of the pass, but just came off. The good news is that it was a big old Thule. We weren't probably going to keep him anyways, but it would have been nice to get him up here next to the boat. That's exciting though. There's fish up here.
Yeah. Oh, reel back down, reel back down. There you go. You got it. Oh,
Wow. Toad. Toad.
This fish here's on a spinner. We got a flasher and a spinner on this one. Here you go, buddy. Keep that rod tip up. Whoa, nice. Sweetness. Yes. Nice job. Yep.
Angry elk.
Woo! Yes! There we go. Took us a little while, but we're gonna get him started.
man.
Oh yeah. It's good stuff.
Go ahead, pick it up. Spinner. Thank you. Attaboy, Ron. Are they together? Or you still got them? Yeah. Okay. Woo! There he goes. Nice fish. Not gonna make the same mistake again. Oh! Are you kidding me? Barbless hooks are so frustrating. 0 for 2 now and 1 pass, both right at the side of the boat. That was a really nice bright fish too. I said we needed to see one more fish get hooked, and it was on our boat. We missed that one too. It's frustrating. All I can do is just go back and do it again. Five and both. All right, we're hooked up. You got him? Nope. Oh, he just came off, did he? He just came off. 0 for 3! Oh, don't set the gut reel that one in. Still there? That coho? Coho down deep. What in the world's a coho doing down there? So there it is. Finally got one into the boat. And it's a coho, beautiful coho. You can tell by the smaller spots, no spots on the tail, but it does have an adipose fin, so we got to put it back. It's ready to go. Push them back and forth in the current, just nice and easy. Let them get some oxygen going back to their gills. Looks like it's about ready to take off. There it goes. Perfect. Too bad our first fish that we got to the boat was a native coho, but it's what we got. Go ahead. Nope. Came off. Dude, we can't win today. We can't. I mean, what is that? 7 bites now? Brandon, we're just wrapping up our day here today. We got the fish filleted, and you know, for August 1st, the bite was incredible. It really was. That being said, I can't tell you how frustrated I am. I had 8 hookups today, and we only landed 1, and it was a native coho.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I look back at what we talked about last night on where we're going to start, what we're going to do, and this morning my game plan changed 180 degrees.
Well, we got a long season ahead of us, man, and it's going to be a fun season.
Yeah,
This is going to be a season that, when we're old and gray, we're going to remember this year. I mean, the Chinook bite's already amazing. We're August 1st, and it's already amazing.
Yeah.
All right, man, here we go.
Hey.
Buoy
good
10
luck.
season.
Buoy 10, here we go. 2014.
All right, buddy.